everyone, welcome back to my channel, True Crime Files. I'm Kathy. Housekeeping rules, please click like, share and subscribe. I'd really appreciate that if you could. If I had a subscribe for every time someone's viewed my videos, I'd be well in the several hundreds by now. It doesn't cost you nothing to subscribe to my channel. There's no memberships because I'm not monetized. So I want to just do this update on this plane. I will make myself smaller so that you can see it better. Bear with. There we go.
Doug, B-R-A-Z-Y. Doug Brazy is our investigator in charge, or IIC, as we refer to the investigator in charge. He is a senior aviation accident investigator, and he has been with the NTSB for 34 years. NTSB, as some of you may know, is an independent federal agency that's charged by Congress with investigating every civil aviation accident in the United States, as well as significant events in other modes of transportation. We are independent. We are not part of the U.S. Department of Transportation. And why that is important to mention is that as part of our investigation, we also have oversight authority in the investigation over the Federal Aviation Administration. We're here to investigate a collision between a Bombardier CRJ 900 with an aircraft rescue and firefighting vehicle while the aircraft was landing at LaGuardia last night around 11:37 p.m. Eastern Daylight Time. The airplane was operated by Jazz Aviation, doing business as Air Canada Express, Flight 8646. It had 72 passengers on board and 4 crew on board. 2 firefighters were in the firefighting vehicle. I want to just take a moment and on behalf of the entire National Transportation Safety Board, express our deepest condolences to those who lost loved ones in this terrible tragedy. We also know others have suffered injury, and our sympathies are with each of you as well. I will mention we have 5 members of our Transportation Disaster Assistance Team here on scene, as well as the chief of our Transportation Disaster Assistance Division. They work in concert with the American Red Cross, and thank you to the American Red Cross, to provide resources and information about our investigation and what we are doing to those who lost loved ones, or those survivors or families of survivors throughout the investigation, not just here on scene, but as we move forward with our investigation through the final board meeting and sometimes after. We also expect to have around 25 specialists on site here on scene. That is in addition to many employees at the NTSB who are supporting this investigation back at headquarters in Washington, D.C. The team in total began to arrive at 3:10 a.m. Some are still en route, which means that we have not had a full day of investigation here today. And I think that's important because there are a lot of questions, and I understand there are a lot of questions. I've heard them on air traffic control. I've heard questions on the tower. I've heard questions on air traffic control communications. I've heard questions on the vehicle, many questions. And I know that you all have those questions, but I just want to set expectations. We have LaGuardia that was shut down. We had a ground stop at Newark today. And then we have DHS that shut down, and we have long TSA lines. We have our air traffic control specialist who was in line with TSA for 3 hours until we called in Houston to beg to see if we can get her through so we can get her here. So it's been a really big challenge to get the entire team here, and they're still arriving as I speak. Right up until about, I think the latest I saw was midnight, maybe 1 a.m. tomorrow morning. So it is a long travel day for many of those. And, many are arriving by sure plane. We have had many that have come here by train, and certainly automobile. We drove up, a number of us. So with that said, I do want to talk a little bit about what we were able to do today. We did a walking inspection of the scene, and we have a site commander doing a really important job, which is a safety walkthrough of the scene to make sure that our safety investigators or our investigators are safe while they are on scene. There is a tremendous amount of debris from taxiway Delta across runway 4 into some other areas. It's pretty expansive, and we want to make sure, because as you're walking around, you can get injured. There's also hazardous materials, of course, on the firefighting vehicle itself. So we want to make sure their safety. In addition, obviously the tail of this aircraft is on the ground. And in order to get to the cockpit voice recorder and the flight data recorder, the Port Authority and the emergency responders cut a hole on the roof of the aircraft, dropped down, and was able to get the CVR and FDR for us, which then one of our investigators drove back to our labs in Washington, D.C. today, where they've been able to at least verify that the cockpit voice recorder was not damaged. They'll begin work on the FDR, the flight data recorder, tomorrow. And hopefully we'll have information to share. My hope is that we'll have information to share on that tomorrow in a press conference. We also began to collect information from FAA and others, certainly on air traffic control staffing in the tower, communications training. We're looking for information today from the fire and rescue department on their crew and on their vehicles, what the capabilities were of their vehicles, and everything from how much they weighed to what they were carrying. And then we began to form our investigative groups for this investigation. So we have an operations group that we have formed, and that will look at the operator itself as well as procedures and training for the aircraft. We will have a systems investigative group. That group will examine the components of the airplane's hydraulic, electrical, navigational, pneumatic, and associated systems, including instruments and flight control system. We have a structures group that will be documenting the airframe wreckage and the accident scene, including calculating impact angles. And we have an air traffic control investigative group, as well as, I mentioned, a cockpit voice recorder and flight data recorder group. And finally, we'll have an airport operations and survival factors combined group. That group will look at the airport rescue and firefighting operations at the airport, and they will look at injuries to occupants as it relates to the dynamics of this crash. I mentioned we have the CVR and FDR. We've also collected and have continued to collect surveillance video. We've asked the Federal Aviation Administration, who will be providing that a ASD replay of the event, ASD Airport Surface Detection Equipment replay of the event. And that is actually looking at the ASD display that was provided to the controller. And so we will be looking at that, where we can see where the aircraft was at certain times and whether the truck was visible on ASDI. We'll also be getting an ASDI analysis from the FAA's Tech Center. That will provide us information on whether alerts were generated and other data, including distance of the aircraft that was landing on runway 4 as the firefighting vehicle was approaching the runway from taxiway Delta. With that, I'm going to take some questions, but again, I just want to be clear. I know you have a lot of questions, you have a lot of detailed questions, and you want that information. I hope to provide more of that information tomorrow. I won't be able to provide a lot of that information tonight. We have a lot of data right now, a lot of information, including information on tower staffing. But the NTSB deals in facts. We don't speculate. We don't take one person at their word. We verify that information carefully before we provide it. So that is something we still have to do. With that, I'll take that. Can you provide your name and affiliation? Can I articulate some of the remaining questions that we have, particularly, well, for this investigation, for the accident itself, and particularly related to air traffic control? You know, at this stage of the investigation, we don't limit ourselves. So we have questions on everything. And we look for everything, we collect everything. We may have information that comes our way that we didn't expect, so we don't rule anything out until later. So we have a lot of questions on everything. Yes. Yeah, the question is, can I provide information regarding staffing in the tower? Can I provide information on who or what position the controller held that was communicating? And can I provide information about the pilot backgrounds at this time? Not at this time. I will have that information tomorrow. Do we have information? Yes. But we need to verify that information before we provide it. It's just preliminary information and we aren't able to provide it yet. We still have to do the question is, how do we go about verifying it? We have to look at records. There's sign-in sheets. We have to do interviews. We have to look at time cards. There's a lot of information that and then official records from the airline. So that is information we always have to corroborate. David, and then I'm going to come over here.
Tell us where the Air Canada Express plane was in the sky when the controller gave the order to let the aircraft cross. Can you say anything about the experience level of controllers?
The question is where was the aircraft when the controller gave clearance for the truck, the firefighting truck to cross? And what was the experience of the controllers? The experience of the controllers we still have to look at on where the aircraft was. That is actually part of what we hope to get from the FDR, which we'll get hopefully tomorrow, the flight data recorder, but then also from the ASDI analysis that the Tech Center will provide us. The question is, did the pilots follow all the instructions? We still have to have the cockpit voice recorder verified and analyzed by all the group members before we can provide any information on that. Yes.
How long has this been involved in this? How long has it been on shift prior? How long have you remained on shift after?
The question is on the shift of the controllers. Again, this was a mid shift. Typically, and again, I'm just going to say this preliminarily, it could be different tomorrow. The shift might run 10:30 to 6 a.m., but we have to verify that, and we have to verify how long the controllers were on before they took over and when the shift change was. The question is, well, first let me, there was a question on the, whether there was a crew member ejected on impact. We don't answer those questions. I would refer you to the chief medical examiner for New York City. That person can answer those questions. We don't comment on, fatalities or injuries at this stage. And your other question was what protocols exist between say airport operations and with respect to firefighting and aircraft landing. That is part of our investigation, and we'll be looking at that throughout this investigation. Well, hold on. The question is how many are on shift typically? That's still something we have to verify with our air traffic control team. The question is, how long will that runway be closed for us to conduct our investigation? It's going to take some time. I just want to express how much there is a lot of debris. We need to go through all of that and to figure out what we need to take back to the NTSB, to our labs, what we might want to collect. First and foremost, what we need to take pictures of to document that evidence. That's all evidence. And we need to document that first. Then we need to collect some of that evidence. Then we get to that. It's going to be days. I'm not sure. Yeah. Yeah, so we'll be working with the Transport Safety Board of Canada, and we work with ICAO under Annex 13. So the Transport Safety Board of Canada is the state of, will come from Canada to represent Canada, and they'll have technical advisors with them from the operator, and I believe from the manufacturer as well. And we coordinate on scene just like other investigations. Just like we would participate in foreign investigations as well. They are also part of our team for fact finding. Last one. Can I speak to what would happen? So I think the question is what is currently happening with that air traffic controller. Typically, they would be removed from duty, and certainly it's pretty traumatic for that air traffic controller as well. And we'll want to interview that air traffic controller as well as others that were in the tower or maybe not even in the tower. With respect to what that individual is doing right now, I would have to refer that to the Federal Aviation Administration. Again, that was the last question. I understand that you have a lot of questions and want detailed information, but I just want to remind you that what would happen if I gave you wrong information, unverified information right now? You would do an entire story on unverified information, and tomorrow I'd have to tell you it's wrong. And then you'd be mad at me again for different reasons. So what I'm going to tell you is we are world-renowned investigators, but we deal in facts. And if we are not able to verify those yet, and we haven't been able to, we can't provide those. We have a lot of information, but we need to be able to verify that information and provide it to you. We will do our best to provide you as much information as possible tomorrow. Thank you.
Very well, speaker, isn't she? So yeah, so that's part 2. I will see if there's a part 3. So just bear with me a minute. I'll just go back a minute. Might have to do a different video. Let me see if I can. Tuesdays update on the plane crash. Might as well see if I can do a part 3 while I'm here. I need glasses on, can't see a thing. So we just watched that one 17 hours ago, 9 hours ago. That's just the news. This might be.
Good afternoon. I'm Dick Brennan. We're interrupting programming for breaking news. Secretary of Transportation Sean Duffy is at LaGuardia Airport giving more details about the runway collision that killed 2 and injured dozens of others. Let's listen in.
He's going to speak in regard to this press conference. When this is over, we'll take your questions, but just want to give you a caveat. There may be a lot of questions about a lot of issues. We are here to talk about what happened last night at LaGuardia. So if you have other questions, please don't ask them. That's a different press conference for a different time. So moments ago, I had a chance to speak to President Trump after he finished his press conference in Memphis. Also spoke with the Transport Minister of Canada, Stephen McKinnon. And again, our 2 teams work very closely together. I want to take a moment and just walk through the facts again of what happened. There was a CJR 900 from Montreal here to LaGuardia, operated by Air Canada Express and by Jazz. It collided with a Port Authority fire truck at approximately 11:45 p.m. last night. There were 72 passengers on the plane and 4 crew. Approximately 40 people were sent to the hospital after the crash. Several have also been released. As has been reported, the 2 pilots of the aircraft passed away in the crash last night. And I do want to note that we send our deepest condolences to their families as they're going through, no doubt, a grieving process. There were 2 individuals in the fire truck. They too were sent to the hospital after the crash. Now, there's going to be a lot of questions, I know, about what do we know at this time? And what we are going to do is give you the information that we can. We all have the respect for the NTSB. The NTSB goes through a thorough investigation. And we are conscious about the information and the facts that we give you because we want that information to be accurate. There's some information that we hold back that the NTSB has that we allow them to do the investigation, and it takes months, sometimes up to a year before we get the findings of that investigation. But NTSB is on the ground at the airport. The FAA is on the ground. Over 10 people from the FAA are here, as well as Transport Canada is sending a team to LaGuardia as well. Our 2 countries work very well together. There's a well-worn path where we collaborate together when there's aviation crashes in either of our countries. The administrator and I were at the crash site earlier today, which is easily visible from the airport. And it's incredibly sad. It's troubling. And I just want to let America know that we are working our hearts off to make sure that when people travel, whether by rail or car or by air, that they travel safely. And we put in precautions and policies to make sure that you are safe when you travel. When I was at the crash site, it was just a reminder that when you're traveling by air, you should wear your seatbelt. If you see the videos of the air crash, wear your seatbelt when you're on the airplane. Also, in a car, wear a seatbelt. As you see from last night, they do save lives. I'd also note that as of now, LaGuardia is open. There is a reduced capacity because The aircraft and the fire truck are still in their positions from last night. So we are going to have reduced capacity for some time, but the airport is operational. Again, we'll come back and take your questions, but at this time, I want to turn it over to the FAA Administrator, Brian Bedford.
Thank you, Secretary Duffy. Again, I want to extend my deepest sympathies on behalf of the 44,000 men and women of the Federal Aviation Administration. We take our responsibilities quite seriously, managing the safety of the air traffic control system and the national airspace. So we're deeply moved by the tragedy of last night. Been in contact with the leadership teams of both Air Canada and Air Canada Jazz to express our sympathies, as well as my peer at Transport Canada. And of course, we are a supporting agency in the investigation now. The National Transportation Safety Board is running the investigation. So there are few facts we're going to be able to share with you today. What I can share with you, of course, the weather conditions last night were moderate winds out of the 050 at 7 knots. We had broken ceilings at 9,000 feet. Visibility roughly 4 miles in raining conditions. So there was mist and fog here at the LaGuardia Airport last night. We had a situation with the United Airlines aircraft that had experienced an aborted takeoff. This is the reason why the fire and rescue crew had been deployed. Of course, the Air Canada flight was arriving on runway 4 when the incident took place at the Delta intersection. Again, I want to extend my sympathies to the families of the two pilots. These were two young men at the start of their careers, so it's an absolute tragedy, that we're sitting here, with their loss. So my heart really goes out to the families for sure. But we are committed to a full, transparent investigation. We will support the NTSB in any way possible. And again, we look forward to being able to take concrete actions to ensure something like this will never happen again. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Catherine Garcia, Executive Director of the Port Authority, and I want to add our voice to those that you've heard before and share our deepest sympathies with the families of the captain and the first officer who passed away last night. The Port Authority takes great pride in being able to work with all of our partners to deliver safety for the flying public. And it has been over 34 years since we had an incident with a death at the airport. As the Secretary said, at approximately 11:40 last night, Air Canada Flight 8646, operated by Jazz Aviation, collided with a Port Authority aircraft rescue and firefighter vehicle on runway 4. The ARP vehicle carried Sergeant Orselio and Officer Baez. Both were taken to New York Presbyterian Hospital. We expect one to be released later this afternoon and the other to be kept overnight for observation. And in accordance with our emergency plan, our mutual aid partners, the Fire Department of New York and the New York Police Department, immediately responded. They transferred over 43 people to the hospital during the evening, though many have been released at this time. At approximately 5:30 this morning, the airport reopened for passengers, and our first flight, a Delta flight, left about a minute after 2 this afternoon. Again, I want to share my deepest sympathies with the families. This could have been an even broader tragedy if everyone had not responded as quickly and effectively as they did. Thank you, and I'm going to turn it over to the governor, New York Governor Kathy Hochul.
Thank you, Catherine. While the facts of what happened last night, 11:45 p.m., were well known, yes, it was an aviation disaster, the likes of which we have not seen here in over 3 decades. But it's a deeply human story where 2 young pilots left their homes expecting to return to their families, and they will not. And this is what pains everyone here in the state of New York. I've conveyed our condolences to the Canadian government. I have walked the halls and gone up to Port Authority personnel and police telling them how grateful we are that they put their lives out there every single day to make sure our traveling public is safe. So to the entire Port Authority and LaGuardia family, I want you to know we are very cognizant of the traumatizing impact this has on you and indeed your own families. So I want to first convey my gratitude to all of you and sympathies to those who have had their lives shattered as a result of this and those who have sustained injuries. It's not what you expect when you get on an airplane. But also, I want to offer the full cooperation of New York State with the investigation. I'm grateful also to Secretary Duffy and Administrator Bedford for coming right here on this day. It's important to have your presence, to know that this will be addressed at the highest levels, and also support from the mayor, who represents many of the people who work here as I do. And Catherine Garcia, up until a short time ago, she was my top state operations officer in charge of every disaster, every crisis that has befallen the state of New York in the last 4 years. So she is a top consummate professional, and I have great confidence in her ability as well. So let me close with this. Let's acknowledge the tremendous stress, particularly in recent days, that our airline workers are under. And as we come through here, know that this is an ecosystem which is not self-sustaining. There are countless individuals who step up every day willing to do the hard work to make sure we're safe. And in my judgment, they all deserve gratitude, not just on this day, but as I often do walking through airports, just saying thank you with a heart full of gratitude for what they do to make our lives safer and better. Thank you. Mayor Zoran Mondami.
Good afternoon. I want to begin by echoing the words that have been shared before me, and also by thanking our partners in city, state, and federal government who are here today. As has been shared, late last night, a Jazz Aviation flight operating on behalf of Air Canada struck a Port Authority aircraft rescue and firefighting vehicle on runway 4 at LaGuardia Airport. Both pilots of the aircraft were killed in the crash. And I echo the words of the governor and those who spoke before in sending our deepest condolences to the families and to the many who are mourning their loss. I am grateful for the work of dedicated first responders, including the men and women from the NYPD, the FDNY, and NYSM, who arrived on the scene within minutes, treated injuries, and handled a chaotic scene with incredible professionalism and poise. I also want to commend those who were thrust into a frightening accident and reacted not only with composure, but by extending a hand to the person next to them. Passengers who opened the emergency door and helped one another off the plane. People who kept one another calm. And I know that this crash has shaken New Yorkers across the 5 boroughs, whether they are traveling today or simply watching from home, especially since it's the first fatal crash at LaGuardia in more than 30 years. I want New Yorkers to know that the National Transportation Safety Board is investigating the cause of this accident, and that we will not rest until the conclusion of that investigation. We have been coordinating closely with our partners across government since late last night, and we will continue to do so. Air Canada has set up a hotline for families and friends of the flight's passengers, and I encourage those who are worried about their loved ones to call. That number is 1-800-961-7099. While LaGuardia was closed since the accident until 2 p.m. today, it has since reopened. I want to thank the many New Yorkers and visitors who had their travel plans impacted for their patience and their understanding, as well as those who work here at LaGuardia and the Port Authority for how they have not only responded to this accident, but the work that they do each and every day. As we continue to learn information, we will share it with you. And in the meantime, let us keep those who died in our thoughts and continue to hope for a quick recovery for those who were injured. Thank you.
So just a couple of additional comments before we take your questions. I just want to make a note that when these incidents happen, you see politics fade away and people work together. And that's why you have people with very different political views coming together, standing together to respond together to an incident like this. Number one. Number two, I know that Jennifer Hamady and the NTSB is going to do a press conference later today with some initial findings that that they'll have with this crash. I want to make another point. You know, I've been asking the Congress for additional money. Many of you have reported that we need more money for air traffic control. We are modernizing our system, but we can't fully modernize it until the Congress gives us additional money. It's not a partisan issue. Both Democrats and Republicans agree, but they have to have the will to finish the funding. I'm not saying that this crash would have been prevented if we had all the equipment deployed, but it's important if we care about air travel safety. We care about having a brand new air traffic control system, the best in the world with the best equipment, virtually all of it developed here in America. Before you ask me a question about our staffing for air traffic controllers, I'll just give you an update on how LaGuardia operates. I'm not going to talk about specifics, but this airport has a target of 37 controllers at LaGuardia. We have 33 controllers employed, certified at LaGuardia, and we have seven actually that are in training. So as our airports go, LaGuardia is a very well-staffed airport. We're a couple controllers short in total, but it is a well-staffed airport. Again, 33 certified controllers that operate out of the tower here at LaGuardia. With that, we are happy to take any of your questions that are specific to what happened last night. Go ahead. Yeah, so the question is in regard to what was the staffing in the tower last night? And we have a very good relationship with the NTSB. We have information. We don't put that information out. We allow the NTSB to gather the information, double, triple check it, and it goes into their report. So I'm not going to give the data on that. Again, that's an arrangement we have with the NTSB, letting them actually do their investigation. And so that's not for us to tell you. That'll be for the NTSB at the appropriate time. Well, it's troubling that we had an aircraft hit a fire truck. I mean, that's troubling. Full stop. Go ahead. So the question is, should the truck have stopped? And again, this goes to information that we have, but we give it to the NTSB. They analyze it and they make the judgment call on what should have happened in regard to air traffic control, trucks and airplanes. And through that investigation, they then put out a report. So I can't give you specifics on what went wrong. That's for Jennifer Hamady and the NTSB. Right here. So I told you I'm not going to talk about specifics, but for that question, I'll just tell you that is inaccurate. So with air traffic controllers, we have surged in our training facility, which is in Oklahoma City. We are putting more controllers through our academy. Now, it does take time to train up as a controller. If you come to a very busy space like N90 in New York or LaGuardia, it's going to take you over a year to train up in a facility like this. So there's some lag time as we get controllers through the academy. And we need them trained up in a facility. As I mentioned, there's 7 controllers. Many of them have a lot of experience in different facilities, but they have to be trained up specifically in this airspace. What I've also done is I have offered bonuses to air traffic controllers who are of the age to retire. I've asked them to not retire, to stay on the job, and we're paying them a 20% bonus just so we can bridge this shortfall. But as airports go, LaGuardia is a well-staffed airport. even though we do have shortages. I was speaking specifically in regard to the dollars that we need for the technological upgrade. Again, this was not tonight, but there's copper wires. We use analog, not digital. There's a whole suite of technological upgrades that we want to make that will make the job of air traffic controlling much easier. And again, it's a separate issue, but I think it underscores the point that the Congress does need to do their job. And there's bipartisan agreement, so they should, in a bipartisan way, come together and figure out a way to give us the rest of the dollars to complete the job. I'll take one more question right here. So it's a great question, and again, you want me to front run the NTSB, and I'm not going to front run the NTSB. We have a great working relationship with them, and we've set this up, and it's the right way. We take a step back, and I don't give you all of the information. I let the NTSB take that information and do their analysis. And I'll just say, oftentimes what we learn is information that we have at the start of an incident like this oftentimes is wrong. And so what we think we know right now, that's why it goes to the NTSB. They pressure test it, they investigate it, and then they come out with a report for all of you. But I did want to clarify. I've heard the rumor that there was only one controller in the tower, and that's not accurate. Listen, I want to thank you all for coming out. Again, we are committed to safety. We are committed to working together to make sure when you fly, you get to your destination. Thank you.
So there we have it, guys. Let me get rid of this one. I've just got found on BBC. I was going to do a part 3, but while I'm here, I might as well do all of it. So let me share. This is BBC's news report. They've named the 2 pilots. I'll just check you can see what I'm seeing. No, you can't. Why can't you see it? A minute. Let's start share screen. Just check you're watching it. Yeah. So let me go back to this one. So pilots killed in the LaGuardia plane crash named. So Anton Forrest, 30, was identified as one of the pilots killed in the incident. Why do I need headphones on when I'm not thing? Right, so Anton, 30, the 2 Air Canada pilots killed when a plane crashed into a fire truck at LaGuardia Airport have been identified as Anton Forrest and Mackenzie Gunther. Local media reported Forrest was 30 years old from Quebec, while Gunther graduated from Seneca Polytechnic in Toronto in 2023. The incident, which happened about 23:40 local time on Sunday or 3:40 a.m. GMT time, which is my time, on Monday, injured 41 people who were taken to hospital, and New York shut the airport until Monday afternoon. These 2 young men were at the start of their career. It's an absolute tragedy that we're sitting here with their loss. Federal Aviation Administration Administrator Brad Bedford said. An investigation has been launched. An air traffic controller was heard saying, "Truck 1, stop, stop, stop," seconds before the crash. The investigation will include analysing the plane's cockpit, voice recorder, and flight data recorder. Forrest had learned to fly bush planes in Santa Cruz 2018 before being hired by Air Canada in December 2022. His great aunt Jeanette Gagnier told the newspaper he and his brother would spend summers with her as he practices English to become a pilot. "It's a very bad day for me. He was always taking courses and flying. He would never stop. He flew his first plane when he was 16 years old," she said. Gunther joined Air Canada after graduating from Seneca, sorry, which flags out at the sorry. Half marathons. I need a drink. Sorry. Hopefully that's better. Seneca sends out our deepest condolences to Mr. Gunther's family and friends, and to his former colleagues and professors. He will be deeply missed in college. Oh, excuse me, yawn. So as you can see, and I heard on, as you heard, they got the flight data from the top of the plane. Oh, yeah. Air Flight Canada attendant Solange Tremblay from Quebec miraculously survived after being ejected from the plane and was found alive strapped to a seat more than 100 meters, which is 300 foot from the plane, suffering multiple fractures. Now, as you heard that first woman say it, excuse me, when you're asked to put your seatbelt on, there's a reason to have your seatbelt on. It's because seatbelts do save lives. Occasionally, seatbelts can jam up and cause problems like being cut out and that. But you imagine if this flight attendant did not strap in, like with the other passengers, she would have been flown from that plane in her seat, and then more likely she would have definitely died. Her daughter, Sarah Lepine, told local broadcaster TVA on Monday she was seated right behind the pilots when the plane landed. Now, those that have been on planes, you do know that air stewardesses, oh, excuse me, oh, I don't know what's come over me. That air stewardess are nearly always seated right behind the pilot. So as you can see, that's the front of the plane there. So she would have been here somewhere. I think there's part of the nose missing over this way. That should be there. So she was probably sat here right where the opening was. So she's very, very lucky. It's a complete miracle. The Lepine said she had a guardian angel watching over her. It could have been so much worse. The two officers inside the fire truck that collided with the plane were also taken to hospital with injuries. So yeah, so I thought I'd bring those updates for you. Thank you for watching. And if you could like, subscribe and share, please. It really helps me out in the YouTube algorithm. And I've been sat here for nearly 50 minutes now and coughing my heart up. So could you just click like and subscribe, please? I love you to bits if you would do that. Thank you very much. And that's the end of this story. Bye.